Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to talk about the Mogu'shan Vaults Raid in the Mists of Pandaria. So as kind of just trying to look at some older content and basically the benefits of running the older content, I thought that we would take a look at the Reins of the Astral Serpent, which is the big reward that you get from the Mogu'shan Vaults, which basically gives you a really cool mount. Now the rest of the raid doesn't have too many notable rewards. It doesn't have any crazy sets or anything like that, at least I don't think so. Generally speaking, there are a couple pets that you can pick up. These are at decent drop rates. However, the big ticket item that you're going to want to get is obviously the mount, and the mount drop rate on heroic is around 4%, so it's a pretty low drop rate for the mount. The pets are not with big resale value, so you don't make a lot of money running this raid. You can't sell them out, you can't do anything. There are some BOEs, but they do not sell for lots. And yeah, that's it. So the first boss you encounter is the Stone Guard. It's literally right at the entrance to the raid. If you are level 70, you will have no problem. The item level you'll need to be for this raid to kind of do it with relative ease is around 280. But if you just basically finish the story towards the end of Dragonflight, then you'll basically be pretty much well equipped to take out this raid. There's no real interesting or crazy mechanics relating to a lot of these bosses. There are some achievements, and some of these achievements do actually require you to do some work, not just instantly killing everyone, which some people really don't like. Some of them are super easy. For example, Must Love Dogs basically gives you a free achievement if you just have a canine pet attached to you. You can go and do a guild run. This will obviously succeed for your guild, but essentially there's really not too many achievements considering titles or anything like that that you're going to want to focus on. Realistically, your main goal for coming into the Mogu'shan Vaults is to clear out the Vault Raid and to get your hands on Elegon. In fact, you don't even have to do the last boss, as there's really no point to it. Like, even the pet from the last boss I think sells for around 100 gold or something, so it's really not that worth your time. The first three bosses here are also super duper easy. Essentially just clearing out all of the mobs will basically let you trigger the events. There's nothing too rocket science behind them. For Garajal, the Spirit Binder, it's also a pretty straightforward fight. In fact, all of them should die pretty much instantaneously. There is a little bit of time gated stuff, basically, around like all of the different bosses, but a lot of it is, dealable. It's just sometimes can take a little bit longer. If you're looking to do the achievements, you're going to have to unequip some of your gear. I know it sounds weird, but you are going to have to unequip some of your gear and wait for some of the mechanics to spawn. But like I said, there's nothing really tied to the achievements. You don't get a mount from any of the achievements, so basically it's not anything too crazy. So there's no real rewards for doing the achievements, barring obviously achievement points themselves. There are 4 pets in total: the Stoneclaw, Wayward Spirit, Celestial Gift, which gives you Comet, and the Mogu Statue, which gives you Baozi. And then there's obviously Elegon, who drops the Celestial Astral Serpent, which is obviously the huge reward that you get from this event. There are some decent weapon transmogs if you're into that, if you're into the whole Mogu style of the Pandarian area. But yeah, generally speaking, there's not anything too crazy that you're going to want to obviously focus on, barring the mount. Now, as a soloable raid, it doesn't take too long. I think in total, the raid took me around, I would say, 15 minutes to run, which honestly isn't that long. A lot of it was just the time gating on some of the bosses, like for example the Spirit Kings, having to basically wait for all of the different ads to essentially, clock into the game so that you could insta one-shot them and then move on to the next phase. Yeah, it was a pretty time-consuming process. I would say that's probably the most frustrating part about this raid, is a lot of the time gating nonsense. There's also a lot of points where you have to make sure that you talk to certain NPCs. Like, for example, before starting the Spirit Kings, before any of the ads will show up, you have to actually speak to Cho, the Spirit Walker, so that you can actually spawn the ads. So it's small things like that that do tend to take a little bit of time and can consume a little bit of your, patience or anything like that. The next phase after the Spirit Kings, a little door will open up under their platform, and you're going to want to walk through here, and this will take you to Elegon, and will take you through to the Emperor's Wills, which is obviously the last two bosses of the raid. So already super duper quick, basically. So obviously we're now at the super important part of the raid, the mount that everyone's going to want, Elegon. Now the rate is around 4%, but remember, rates are, based on how many times it's dropped on people that have recorded it on things like Wowhead. For some of you, it may take 5 tries. For some of you, it may take 300 tries. It's very difficult to kind of say how long a mount farm can take. There's varying experiences for everyone. Remember, just because the drop rate is 4% doesn't mean that you're going to get it in the 1 out of your first 25 runs. Fortunately, it's very quick and there's a very low gear requirement. So honestly speaking, you could just leave a level 70 ult here that you don't plan on playing in the foreseeable future, and you can use that to basically wrap up the raid and clear it out quite quickly. It is a benefit from that perspective, and honestly speaking, it should be a relatively solid time, and you should be able to get through the farm quite quickly, which means you should get the mounts in, well, relatively no time. I would say overall it's probably one of the easier grinds to do, considering the quality and high value of the mount in question. Like, I think Elegon and the Astral Cloud Serpent, which by the way looks exactly like Elegon, the raid boss, is probably one of the cooler mounts in the game still. And yeah, genuinely speaking, I just find it to be a pretty cool, pretty interesting mount that's a relatively decent grind. Once you've taken out Elegon, a chest will appear, and you can loot that chest for your chance at the mount. I unfortunately did not get the mount during the course of this run, but that's okay. Not anything to panic about, at least for now. This was only my first clear of this raid, well, at least in a while. And so yeah, really not too big an issue. But of course, to cut a long story short, pretty straightforward stuff. Once you get to this final room against the Emperor's Wills, there are a couple things you're going to need to do. So if you're doing this on normal difficulty, you're going to have to click the panel. However, if you are doing the game on heroic difficulty, or the raid on heroic difficulty, you are going to have to break the pipes that appear on the side of the room. So you'll see these 3 pipes on the left hand side and on the right hand side, and basically it's pretty straightforward. It's a very, very, very simple kind of concept. So break all the pipes, and then you should be able to spawn yourself in and get yourself and your hands on the final boss. Now the final boss himself doesn't really drop anything too crazy. He doesn't drop a super crazy mount. He does not drop a super crazy pet. He does not even drop super crazy BOEs or a toy. But basically, it's not really anything too wild, to cut a long story short. It's just a very, very, very straightforward kind of fight. A couple mobs will spawn. You just take out these mobs as you go along, and you'll be more than fine. Generally speaking, it's a very simple process. You can just constantly kill the mobs and hit whichever kind of little spark or titan spark spawns with any range move that you have, and you'll be able to take it out, and you're done. It's honestly not that crazy. but it can be a little bit confusing the first time you run it, but by the second time you run it, you'll basically be sorted. So don't panic too much, rest up easy, just focus on taking out the boss, and you'll have a genuinely decent time. Beyond that, honestly, I don't really have any issues with this final fight. The rewards, like I said, are not crazy, but obviously for some people who are interested in just kind of completing everything up, of course you can go for it. I would say, however, honestly, I would just stop at Elegon. Once you've done it once, there's no real, need to constantly refight the will of the Emperor, since it doesn't affect your rate or your drop for Elegon. And personally speaking, I'm basically quite happy with just stopping at Elegon. I think it makes life way easier and honestly just way better. So but that basically covers everything. Once you've taken out enough of the Emperor's strength, confidence, rage, etc., the final actual boss will essentially spawn, and you'll be able to take them out, and you're done. So that's it for the Mogu'shan Vaults. Obviously, guys, the great incentive is the mount, but let me know if there's any other raids you want me to cover, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care, stay safe, and bye.